Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to get started shortly. And let me just say welcome, and we're glad you come out and be involved with us on your busy schedule this warm day. So to really start us off, I've asked Reverend Towner, who is one of the reverends at this church, to come and give us welcomes. I can't say enough about Covenant Baptist Church in terms of the role they play in the community and the support they have given to the Senior Community Development Community Forum. This is, I think, our third event here, and every time we have come, they've been very gracious, and they really play a very key role in the community. So I'll ask the Reverend to come up and just give us some welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I am Reverend Andre Towner. I'm fortunate enough or blessed to be able to serve as a social justice minister here. And part of our goal as a congregation is to not only get into the community, but to empower the community and help it connect with the resources and opportunities that it needs to help create a community where everybody can thrive and flourish. So we believe that you and your work is a part of that. And we're just thankful and grateful that you're here. So on behalf of our pastor, the Reverend Dr. Alice Green, and the entire congregation, we extend words of welcome, and please let me or any other member know if we can do anything to help you. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, Reverend. Okay, so we are anticipating Councilman Trayon White being here to do the opening remarks. But let me just start by saying, give you some background of the committee. The committee started about 2 years ago, and it was an outgrowth of the seniors in Congress Heights Wellness Center. We would have luncheon conversations about the need for seniors to be more engaged in the community. And after a while of having people come in to talk to us, it became apparent that we needed to do more than just talk. So the committee was put together as a way of ensuring that seniors had a voice in all the development that was going on in Ward 8. That, and 2 years ago that we anticipated was coming. 2 years later, it's been substantial and it's really accelerated very quickly. So this is a very important time for the community, for us to be involved in discussion, not only for the well-being of the seniors, but the well-being of the community in general. So today's forum, the topic is the state of the seniors in Ward 8, and we'll have some panel discussion. But even larger than, again, the state of seniors, it's the state of the community. And anybody who's been looking at any type of media knows that there's been a lot of violence in the community, and unfortunately a lot of our children are getting injured and killed. And we can react to that, and that's what we normally do, but the issues that we're dealing with are very systemic, and it's going to take more than just going out and protesting. It's going to take some real organizing and mobilizing and understanding what's happening around us so that we can take full advantage. So today, in addition to talking about seniors, we want to spend some time talking about the need for us, particularly as seniors, but as a community, to do more around planning. At this day and time, still don't have a community plan, a strategy that talks about how the community Ward 8 is going to really take advantage of what's going on. And because that makes us open to anybody coming in with their plans, and that's not a good place to be. So if you have your agenda that was on the table, part of it was the agenda items of the senior, Ward 8 Senior Community Development Committee. This was put together 2 years ago in anticipation of where we wanted to be at in the community. And the purpose is to create a vehicle that will allow seniors to participate and provide leadership in community development activities in Ward 8. The time I spent in Congress Heights, if anything, I've learned that there's tremendous expertise in the community. People who have history, really understand the community, that are not really being tapped in. And so our desire is to have seniors at the table in any major decision going on in the community. One, because seniors need to protect their interests, but also seniors bring a lot in terms of history, knowledge, expertise that the community needs to have access to. residents to be eligible resident of Ward 8 and over the age of 55, which is not hard and firm. We're interested in having anybody participate in the community that really supports what our agenda is and our desires. And I say to those who are not 55, you're going to be 55 eventually, so why not take advantage early in the process. So we have several agenda items that we've been pushing and promoting. I'll start with the last three and come back to the first two. One of the agenda items, developing a strong working relationship with elected officials, religious, business, and community leaders. Advocate for senior housing that is affordable and provides support for aging in place and guiding living. Advocate for increasing and improving senior services and expanding the space of the Wellness Center. Advocate for improving senior transportation services. Advocate for increasing intergenerational activities in Ward 8. And I'm happy to say, because of the effort of a lot of you in this room, a lot of these agenda items have really been spoken to, and we continue to see a lot of support from city government around the needs for the seniors. So in my estimation, looking at other communities that I've been in, seniors do pretty well in Washington, D.C., if you do the comparisons in other communities. And that's not to say that we can't get more, but I think we're very fortunate to have a community to recognize taking care of seniors. And but it's still not enough. As long as there's any issues in the community that are being unresolved, then we need to speak to it. I've had a chance to talk to some of the service providers of youth in the community, and I think as seniors, we really want to promote an environment that is conducive for children. I think the health of a community is measured by how well the children are doing. If the children are not functioning, are not healthy, or being harmed, then what kind of community you have? And right now, if we put the measurement to the community based on that, we're not doing that well. So there's a philosophy in the child welfare community that talks about measuring a community by it being child-centered, family-focused, and community-based, which means the well-being of the child is how you measure the health of the community. And that the family is the major support of the children, so if the family's not working, you're not going to have healthy children. And if the community that the family and the child lives in has to be functional. So if we put those three things together, then that's what leads to having a health. So from this point on, when we talk about doing something in Ward 8, we really need to look at it through the lens of what's beneficial for children. And inside of that is seniors, because a healthy community supports both children and seniors. So they do go hand in hand. So the first two agenda items, one, advocating for embracing the community economic development guiding principles in Ward 8. If you look at the back page, these are the guiding principles. Now, the community economic development is an important distinction because coming out of the 60s with the anti-poverty movement, it was recognized that traditional or conventional economic development did not work for communities, because traditional economics talks about profit making for developers or businesses and increasing taxes for cities. And that has nothing to do with the quality of community life. So this concept of community economic development came around because it recognizes that communities had different kind of needs. Communities are not looking for profits or taxes. What they're looking for is affordable housing. They're looking for livable wage jobs. They're looking for health care and proper education. And those things are not necessarily what the city government is really interested in or their top priority. And very rarely do you hear a developer talking that way. So if the community doesn't promote that type of agenda, it doesn't get promoted. And we see that in a lot of communities throughout the country. So if we would embrace these principles, it would change the culture significantly. The first, #1 principle talks about human dignity, self-respect, community spirit, gender equality, respect for seniors and children, ethnic pride, social dignity, regardless of psychological differences, ethnic background, color, creed, and sexual orientation. I mean, that one item would change how we deal business in the community. If we can get as many of the people in the community to embrace that one principle, it would change up how we interact with each other. And so the list of principles are all designed to talk about what needs to happen at a community level. And so to create a process where we are buying into these principles, can get us on the same page, move us in the same direction, and we won't see the kind of fragmentation that exists in the community right now because we are on the same page. So any attempt to create a strategy for us needs to be built on these principles. So I would encourage you here today to become an advocate for these principles, because until we have collective principles that can move us from where we're at now, then we're going to get stuck in the same place. The second agenda item that we felt was important was to advocate for creating a multi-year community economic development strategy by and for the residents in Ward 8, which is very, very unique. Of all the time that we've been here throughout the country, particularly as African Americans or people who find themselves in low-income communities in general, very rarely are there plans that are bottom-up in process. Most of the plans that we see are top-down. Either the city government will come into a community and say, we need a plan, and they will help put the plan together, or ask the residents to participate, same with the private sector. But really, do we have a plan that the community engaged in from the start to finish, where they own it, and they create it, and it reflects their interests? So we have a unique opportunity now in Ward 8 to actually create that kind of model, to create a plan that actually talks about where the community wants to go over the next 5, 10, 20 years, which is critical because, most things in terms of human development takes about 20 years. So if we're talking about a child born today, if we want to ensure that that's a healthy child, then we have to develop strategies that ensure by the time they're 20 years old, they have the proper education, they have the proper skills, and they have the proper attitude to go any place they want in the country and survive. We can't wait till that child gets 10 years old or 15 years old to have that conversation. Ideally, if we had started 20 years ago with some type of planning process for the community, we would be in a different position than we are now. But it's never too late to do that planning process. There's a saying in the field of planning that either you plan or you're planned upon. So if we don't have a plan as a community, somebody has a plan for us. And that might not be the best plan that we want. So I've talked to the councilman, and he's very supportive of putting together a planning process. And one of our panelists today is going to talk a little bit about that. But we need the leadership of the councilman to really convene this. And I have had conversations with a lot of resources in and outside the community that would really embrace a planning process as an opportunity to make sure that they're connected. Because we have a lot of services in Ward 8, we have a lot of activities, but it's not connected. A lot of it is very fragmented in nature, and we don't talk to each other. We duplicate a lot of resources, and that's not to our best interest. So to put a planning process together gets us on the same page. It allows us to begin to talk about how do we better utilize our resources, and it creates a better sense of community. So the need for a community economic development strategy is really staring us in the face. As the city government has talked about 7 years ago, very conservatively, $10 billion of private investment is being anticipated coming in this community, which is an extraordinary amount of money. So the money's not the issue. It's how the community positions itself to direct it and have some influence on it to make sure it goes in those areas that need the support. So this is the opportunity that we see in front of us. And the senior participation is very important because unlike our children and our grandchildren, we've seen these cycles before. We've seen, cycles around violence. We've seen cycles around, whether it's the redevelopment era in the 60s, that is really the forerunner for gentrification. A lot of the other economic programs that have come to the community and really didn't affect us correctly. So these are learning experiences that we now have to take and make sure that we don't create the same mistakes over and over again. So, so the panel discussion today is really an opportunity to hear from people who have been out in the trenches, in some cases know the history, know the state of the seniors and the state of the community in general, can share some of their insight and wisdom, and help us get in a better place in terms of where we want to be. And there'll be questions and answers for people who have questions they want or have statements they want to make. So we really want to come out of this forum really supporting the notion of creating a community economic development strategy. And as it unfolds, we want to make sure that seniors in this room and outside this room are very involved in the planning process itself. Can help shape it in a way that it really reflects the senior population and what they see are the needs. So we're really excited about people being out here. And once the councilman comes in, we're tying into the program. So I want to start off with our first panel discussion. And I'm going to ask those on the panel discussion, Ms. Sandy Allen to come up front, Mr. Bobo, Mr. Darcy from AARP, and Phil, you're not going to get away. You know, we have room for you at the table as one of our panelists. You can't do it, Phil.
I have to leave after the first panel.
What time?
After the first panel.
Well, you're in the first panel. That's not a problem. Okay, so you know, for the most part, we have several panelists who really don't need any introduction. Anybody who's been in the community for any length of time know who they are. At one point, the council person here, and is also now chairing the Ward 8 AARP, has a very long and rich history. Mr. Bobo, who was involved with the Commission of Aging, Ward 8, is a tireless worker for the seniors, and has his history. As you see, I recruited Phil, and if you've been involved in Ward 8 at any level, you know the work that Phil has done and his commitment to the community. So I'm glad you were able to join us, Phil. And Mr. Darcy, who's representing AARP, the DC office, which is a key organization for seniors. I've asked him to share some of his sense of what's going on, not only in Ward 8, but on the district level. So I've asked the panelists to give us about 5 minutes of their sense of where the state of the seniors are. And then after, we'll open it up for panel discussion. So I'll ask Sandy, and then Phil, and then Mr. Bobo, and Mr. Dawson to speak. Okay?
I can't sit down and talk, so I guess. All right. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Actually, I came to listen to hear what the community had to say, so I have no prepared statements for today, other than I did do some research because I wanted to know about the populations throughout the city, where Ward 8 stood in its senior population as it was compared to other wards in the city. I was surprised because I always hear us talk about our seniors not getting the things that they need. There are 5 other wards in the District of Columbia with more seniors than Ward 8. So it's only 8 wards, so that means there's only 3 of us with a low number of seniors. But the difference is we do not advocate for ourselves as we should. I told my co-worker when I was leaving the office today, I said, I'm going to see the same 20 people in the room that I've seen in the last 20 years. We have not expanded our grasp. We've not reached out, and we can get all the things everybody else gets. We got to holler. You know, your grandmother used to tell you the squeaky wheel gets the oil. Well, we have to become more of a squeaking wheel. I see our council member coming in, and before he even gets down here, we need to thank him for the things that he did in our budget for the school board. He's saying a couple of things that were really important to us, and came out very victorious. But I want to hear what you all were thinking today. I work for the Department of Housing and Community Development. I know we have some programs that are geared towards seniors. I also know that we have some programs geared towards seniors that take months and years to get them completed. But the process is so slow that we need to talk about how we can improve the process for the repairs and so forth. But this is stuff that is every day. I mean, we got it. We just got to go after it. And we have to go after it in a manner that when the council member gets ready to introduce the bill and that we support, we go support it.
Yeah.
When there's an issue coming, don't wait, don't be reactive. The one thing the seniors have to do is to become proactive for the things that they want in Ward 8. My 5 minutes is up.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm totally unfair to be on this panel. So, yeah. So please forgive me if I'm rambling and somewhat incoherent. But first of all, if we're going to talk about seniors, we have to define exactly what that is chronologically because people have different views on it. If you're 50 years of age, you can join AARP. If you're 55, you can order from the seniors menu at IHOP. If you're 16 years old, then you're eligible to join the Congress Heights Senior Wellness Center. If you're 62, you can get a reverse mortgage. If you're 65, you're eligible for Medicare. So the thing about it is that from 50 to 65, you have people defining senior citizens in different ways. Matter of fact, in certain states, senior housing, the eligibility age is 55. So just to be safe, I will use AARP, 50, okay? Now, here in Ward 8, the situation is such, and I know this is going to be a provocative statement, but when you talk about senior issues in Ward 8, those people who are 60 years and older, you are basically talking about women's issues. You know why? Because Ward 8 has one of the lowest life expectancies for black men in the United States. And it's not just because of all of the poor health indices that affect African American men here in Ward 8. One of the major reasons is homicide. When we talk with who is actually getting killed in this city in general, and Ward 8 in particular, we're talking about young black men. And so usually if you have any gathering of senior citizens in Ward 8, it will be usually around 90% women. And we need to address that issue. Another thing here in Ward 8 is that we need to have more senior housing. And it's unfortunate that many times when there are institutions that want to establish senior housing, they're thwarted by different reasons. This church right here, Covenant Baptist United Church of Christ, I'm a member of this church, wanted to build a senior housing apartment, a building right on the parking lot, and faced some community opposition to that. The other issue involving, I would say, seniors in this ward is that our seniors need to be more politically involved. In any time, in terms of politics, it's the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. And, you know, I guess Sandy, our former council member, was talking about our current council member doing some really good things, you know, for us in the budget. Well, I'm sure that both she and he will attest to the fact that there are lobbying groups that are down at the Wilson building like white on rice, you know, like to get what they want, and you will usually find that Ward 8 which is not totally noted for our advocacy and our lobbying in any significant numbers. My last point, as I said, I was not prepared to speak, is that all of you who live here in Ward 8, who are 50 years and older, need to join our AARP chapter. Our AARP chapter, the official name is the Anacostia Bellevue Congress Heights AARP chapter number 4870. There used to be 21 local AARP chapters in this city. We are now down to 8. There are only 8. There are only 2 east of the river, Ward 8 and Penn Branch in Ward 7. And the AARP DC office has decreed that once an AARP chapter becomes defunct, it cannot be re-established. Now, Sandy does a Herculean job of trying to keep our chapter going, but we need members. And the dues are what, $15 a year? $15 a year. Please join. The chapter meets the second Wednesday of each month right here in the same space. The next meeting that's coming up, the second week of June, whatever that is going to be a luncheon at the Flaming Grill in Rivertown, $25 a person, of which the proceeds will be used not only to benefit our Ward 8 AARP chapter, but also go to some scholarship fund for some deserving Ward 8 high school students. So, thank you for being here. Mustafa, you please don't ever do this to me again. And for being on the staff, and God bless all of you.
Good afternoon. My name is Gullah Bobo. I'm the Commissioner with the Office on Aging. And like Mr. Purnell, I was not prepared for this statement. But just to give you a view of my perspective, I deal with trying to get the seniors in Ward 8 to engage with one another and with city and advocate for themselves. That's my first objective. And my second objective is equity. A lot of times now when I go to the city council and when I go to meetings, they talk about the things that we get in Ward 8. And I have to remind them, we're not getting anything that the rest of the city doesn't already have. So when they say, oh, you're getting all of this, you're getting all of that, I say, well, the rest of the city already had it. We're just getting around to that equity portion where we're getting it. So that's what I spend my every day, 7 days a week. It boils down to advocating for equity for citizens east of the river. And I do that by engaging the city council, I do that by engaging the mayor, I do that by engaging every District of Columbia agency that deals with seniors. The title is Commissioner with the Office on Aging, but I engage every agency that deals with seniors in the District of Columbia. That's my responsibility. And I engage my community of seniors. And I try to serve as a bridge. That's what our objective is.
Hi everyone, I'm actually Peter Rankin. I'm with the AARP DC State Office. Bobby had a family thing to deal with today, so like my fellow panelists, I do not have official 5 minutes of remarks prepared, but I've been a lobbyist for 12 years, so I can talk forever. So I lobby for the AARP DC State Office, and we have 53 state offices, and the state offices are charged with working with the state legislatures, and in DC it's the District Council, which you all know. But what we generally do, and what I do every day, is try to get, I always like to say that I try to bend the city to my will and the will of my members. And so we have 87,000 members in the district, and 8,210 live in Ward 8. And again, going with the theme of not being prepared, there's another thing up here of engagement. What I would like to see is all 8,210 seniors come with me to the Wilson Building and advocate for something. And we just finished the budget cycle, and the budget it ended up being pretty okay for seniors. It wasn't as good as we wanted. One thing I've learned in lobbying is that if everybody walks away happy, something's wrong, so everybody should walk away a little angry. We didn't get all the funding we wanted. We'll never get all the funding we wanted. But we're up against a lot of other organizations that are loud and strong and they're constantly. And so when I or Bobby or our boss Lewis, when we need folks to come to the Wilson Building with us, we need that whole army to come down with us and advocate on behalf of seniors. Because I can tell you, I used to work in the Illinois State Senate, and you have people talking to you constantly when you work there. And there are constant organizations talking about what they need. And so you need that volume of folks coming down. And we'll give you all a red shirt so we all match, and you know your boss. And I'll even buy you lunch. They gave me a corporate card, which I don't know why they did. I'm not terribly responsible with money, but I'll take you all out for lunch. But we want to make sure that the council understands exactly what's going on in the community, and not just the in-ward council members, the at-large council members, because they have a whole city talking to them. I mean, not to say that Councilmember White doesn't have the whole city talking to them too, but the at-large council members need to hear, I think, a little bit more about in-community issues, because they hear about it from everybody constantly. I know that myself and my husband are always on the phone with the at-large council members because there's always something to complain about, and I'm sure they're hearing it from everybody. So, you know, come down to the council with us, advocate with us, put on the red shirt. We want to fill the room. We want to make sure that the council members know that there is strength in numbers and strength in the senior population in DC. And it's my job to make sure that you're all connected with that. And just real quick to sort of summarize why I, as a lobbyist, am asking you to go down and help me with my job. When I got onto the council members know, the mayor knows, DACL knows that I'm a paid lobbyist. I get paid by AARP to go down and shill for an issue. That's sort of what I've always done. And I love it because I'm a little brother, and sort of like a professional little brother. I get to poke him constantly about issues, and I get to annoy him. But when I come down there with an army of folks behind me, that means that not only am I talking about AARP, which is a large organization, I'm talking for the citizens of the district, and they're the ones that pay AARP, and those dues pay me. And so it's not just the lobbyists coming down there, it's the community that lobbyists represents coming down there. So I look forward to seeing you all at the Wilson Building, and I look forward to submitting my credit card receipt when I take you all to lunch after.
Okay, can we round of applause for the panel? Thank you. Before we open it up, I just have one question, and that's to really follow up to my introduction. Can any of you speak to what you believe is the importance of creating a community economic development strategy, the benefits of it, as opposed to not having one?
Just a short thing. I was at a meeting on Tuesday, and it was in Ward 7. But the statement was made that Ward 7 is the last ward to not be gentrified. So the time is now. The time is now to make your effort if you want to stay in the community. I received an email yesterday, that I read it yesterday, about not only should we be addressing the low-income seniors, we should be addressing the middle-income seniors. And in Ward 8 specifically, we have a lot of seniors that work government jobs that don't fall under that low income level. Those are the seniors that we need to start concentrating on, because those are the seniors that are going to be displaced with what's happening now. I got a call from a lady. She lives in a home. She can't afford to upkeep the upkeep of the home with all of the other bills that she has. And she is reaching out for help. So this is the area that we need to start concentrating on, is the economic plan to keep the middle income people here in this community.
The only thing I want to say is that I think that, how many of you have ever been to a comprehensive plan community meeting? Okay, you got about 5 hands. At that point is when we can bring whatever you've come together with to the city, all right? We don't go to comprehensive plan meetings, when the planning people come to our community. I can say I don't do it anymore, so I'm not going to just blame you all. I don't go like I used to go. But that's where we really get an input. We walk into the comprehensive plan meeting with something that we want. Now, I didn't say we can get it all, you know, so don't go back and say if I bring it in, it's going to be all right. That ain't what I said. Okay, I said, bring it to them. give them an idea and have backup from your community.
How do you find out about it?
It is always, well, everybody's not like you and online all the time, okay? But it is usually announced online. It's usually, and I'm always fussing about my community, not everybody having IT. I fuss about it every day of the week, that we still need this little flyer thing, you know, this little piece of paper that I got, we still need these, all right? But, and one of the things that the Office of Planning has to do is to make sure that we know that they communicate. We can tell them, and I better stop because I do work for the government, but anyway, we can tell them, all right? We want y'all to pay some of them little kids that's hanging on the corner another $5 to go pass out these pieces of paper. I try to do that with my job more. Well, kids not $5 no more, so I take that back. Give them $25 and let them go out and pass out a flyer, put it in your door.
Okay, who is the person?
I cannot give you any names.
Office of Planning.
Office of Planning. But the comprehensive plan plans for 5 years down the road.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
I was going to answer her. The person that she probably wants to talk to is a Ward 8 resident, Leonard Watson Sr.
Yep.
He is a community outreach engagement person for the Office of Planning.
He's on staff.
He on your Facebook, Rob.
Any of the panelists have any other comments around planning?
Well, your question, Commissioner Mustafa, you did tell me your name is Commissioner, didn't you?
Yes, everybody knows.
All right, this is your single member district, right? Okay, right. So I guess you just ranked supreme today. In terms of the desirability of a comprehensive plan, it's just like money. It's better to have it and not need it than one day need it and not have it. So, of course, you're like, we should all know that that would be desirable. But the thing about it is that in the a comprehensive plan, you know, like it's also just like romance. You know, like romance without finance is a nuisance. And the thing about it is that we just have a comprehensive plan, and you know, like, and if there's not the necessary funding, then it basically becomes some type of glorified wish list.
Yeah.
And which brings me to the point of this morning, I went to my first meeting of the Mayor's Complete Count Committee for the upcoming U.S. Census. Every state has a complete count committee that's appointed by the governor here in D.C. And so spent 3.5 hours for the first meeting there. And there are certain groups of people in this country that are historically undercounted. Veterans, immigrants, children 5 and under. Oh no, they get the prisoners counted right. They know where they're all at. And the thing about it is that, and then senior citizens are historically undercounted. Back in the 2010 census, each 7 of the wards actually reported an increase in population, except for Ward 8, which went down. Now, anecdotally speaking, we know that we did not really lose people. The thing about it is that we just have so many folks who are difficult to count. You know, like, and one of the groups, another group that is difficult to count, are young black men. You know, particularly age 18 to 39. So when a person is undercounted in the District of Columbia, we lose approximately $20,000 of federal funds over the course of 10 years. So if we want to see a comprehensive plan that is actually fiscally implemented, it is critically important that we have a full count next year. And so we should do whatever is possible to make sure that the seniors in Ward 8 are counted. Many of them may not return the forms in the mail, and then when they're given the opportunity to go online, a lot of our seniors then are not IT. I know when it comes to the informational highway, I am personally roadkill. And and then you have a lot of seniors who simply are not going to knock on not going to open the doors when the enumerator knocks on his or her door. So we've got to do a lot to make sure that there is the money available so that any comprehensive plan that we come up with can be feasibly implemented.
So we're going to open the floor for a couple of questions.
Mr. Cornell, can you also speak to how the count will affect the boundary? Because what you think might be Ward 8 might not be Ward 8 anymore.
That's true.
You know, so you could see there's places that were Ward 6 would be part of Ward 8, and some of the interests that maybe that people have may not be as pronounced because maybe in some other areas they might be more pushing the oil, be more confident in speaking the oil. So can you speak to that too? And maybe some historical how it's changed over time.
Sure.
And Sandy probably could too.
Okay, sure, Yvonne. Mrs. Cornell, why are we so formal? I mean, you know, like that. Are you trying to respect your elder? You know, I get everything because you know, we're contemporaries, all right? Okay. Yes, well, anyway, yes, well, when we have the census next year, then in 2021, the council will have to redistrict the city. And in the past 40 years, the Anacostia Library, you all know what that is? Yeah. Up on Good Old Road? The Anacostia Library in the past 40 years has been in wards 6, 7, and 8. Yeah. The library didn't move. Then the boundaries moved. So it's really important that we also have a complete count.
And the schools.
And the schools, right? You know, like some schools that might be in Ward 8 this year in 2021 may be in a different ward. That's why when we ever discuss these ward things, we always keep in mind we're talking political boundaries which can change every 10 years, just like single-member districts. But when we have discussions in terms of whom is being impacted as far as where people live, that discussion should be neighborhood-based. You're like, whereas you're like the boundaries of Ward 8 may change, Congress Heights is still going to be Congress Heights, or Fairlawn, or Bellevue, you're like, or Hillsdale, or Fort Stanton. And that's another thing that's important, that you have civic associations and you actively involved. But yeah, that will impact the redistricting. Did that answer your question, Ms. Smith? Yeah.
Okay, so when
I'm also very solutions driven. So I understand that there is a undercounting of 2 groups. So for me, I'm very intergenerational, and I just said it to the council member, we want to get young people involved in the process, period. They need to know what processes are going on. So every young person who is computer savvy or Snapchat or Instagram or whatever savvy, you know, we need to come up with a campaign, AARP. We need to come up with a campaign, Ward 8, where you count your grandmother, you count your grandfather, you count your great-grandmother, you count your great-aunt. You count them because they're not going to open the door, because they're not going to count themselves. But if you make it a fun thing for young people to be involved in, you know, have you made that count? Have you counted your grandmother? Have you counted your great-aunt? Have you counted your, you know, great-uncle? It is important for us and for them to be able to live and evolve and have happy, healthy living in Ward 8 and for them to actually grow and thrive here. You can get young people involved. They're on the internet all the time. And it's something very easy for them to say, how many people in your household, this, and this. Bam. Make it a fun, you know, thing for them to do. Do it intergenerationally. and I charge that to AARP.
I also say that, and Wendy, yeah, you're totally correct, but also I think it's important that we get our Ward 8 people, particularly our young people, involved in doing the counting.
That's what I said.
You know, the census is going to have to hire at least 500,000 people throughout the country, and they have jobs. You're right. That now they're hiring now, and you're right, and they're not getting many applicants from Ward 8. There's going to be census job fair at the UPO PD Green Center on June the 5th from 10 till 2. And we should get as many Ward 8 folks going in there, and seniors, you know, going in there and applying for some of these full and part-time census jobs that pay anywhere from $13 to $40 an hour.
But there's a test and people can practice online.
And all right, you got the information. You're going to be there taking it?
I can do that at home.
Excuse me?
So one more question before we transition to the other.
Teresa Smith. I have a couple of answers and a couple of questions. Try to be a full-service resident. First, concerning Ward 8, Chapter 4870, which I did not join, but I'm part of AARP. Have you considered going to Congress Heights Senior Wellness Center or some of the other places to have us join? I know it's just right down the street and $15. I've already decided that it's 3 people, including myself, that I'm going to register for $45. Okay, but so I'm just giving you, if you want to up your numbers, up the stakes. You also have Washington Highland. Get some of the people to do the same thing. Second, except for Anita Barnes and recently Robert White, a lot of the at-large council members are basically helping the other wards besides 7 and 8. I know because I've raised hell with men and that's not supposed to be on their OL. Because of the fact I let them know, I'm retired, you're working. I can stop for the grassroots and make sure you're out of there. So we need to let the at-large council members know, go to their office also and lobby, because we know we can catch Trayon White, our council person, at numerous affairs. Yes, you can. You just have to look. It's also on his website, and he issues little pieces of paper that you can read. And a suggestion for those that don't know about the meetings that prefer the paper, if you give them a valid phone number, a lot of them will call your house number. I don't give them my cell anymore. And they will leave the date and the time of the different meetings, organizations, etc. And for those that talk about the census, the homeless are undercounted also because they did not go to Catholic Charities has the one on Martin Luther King Avenue, and on Brothers Place, House of Ruth has about 4 or 5 homes now, and they did not count theirs. And finally, for those that are worried about the middle and lower income persons that's not able to keep up their homes, they have a lot of programs out, and the wellness centers have a lot of them. You have to find a way to pry the seniors up to go and take advantage of them. And our council person actually helped go through Anita Barnes, who does a lot with the seniors, and have the money rolled over so we can use it through the end of this year. But if we don't apply, we're not going to have it. And I'm getting all my free stuff. I'm just letting you know now.
All right, well, thank you. You had a question?
Yeah, I just want to speak to Mr. Measure. It's funny because I was going to say, but I was just sitting there talking about it. I know AARP and the Congress City Wellness Center have a much close relationship with the years, and we do need to rebuild that because I'm thinking that this is something that really every person that should remember, at least, ideally. And as well, we were sitting there thinking about how when the census comes around, really the wellness center is a great place for them to take the census when the majority of people are there, because, you know, like, you know, they're not gonna answer the door necessarily, but at the wellness center, it's a safe environment.
And to the point about information getting out from DACL about the different programs that are available, this is just sort of my fun fact of the day, and it's not actually that fun, it's just a fact. DACL, which used to be DCOA, only reaches about 30% of seniors in the district. And think about, if you pay taxes and you only get 30% performance from a government agency, you should be demanding a lot more. I'm not old enough to get the services, but I pay taxes, I'm already angry that they don't do it. So, you know, I think that part of what we talk about advocacy and getting counted and all that, you have to make sure that, you know, it's your council members, it's everybody hears from you, because otherwise you're not gonna get what you paid for through your taxes.
There's another thing, through the city council, there's a little book that tells you how the city council works and the committees and things, and everybody can get it. It might be helpful if we had some of those at the senior center or AARP meetings. There's a booklet that tells you all about how it works, because a lot of people they just think that they have crayons. We have 7 representatives, and it would be helpful if people had, it would be helpful. Ms. Smith is right. A lot of times we don't know about these programs. If the Department of, I'm talking to Mr. Bobo, Department of Aging, if they had some kind of booklet that had all these things in one place so we would know about it. Because sometimes people are in trouble and they don't know. They don't apply because they don't know.
To your point, we had a booklet up until about 2015, I believe.
Right.
We had a booklet up until about 2015. There was such a transition, there has been such a transition going on since then that the book hasn't been fully updated. Okay, including up this year where we just became a department. So the book hasn't been fully updated. Now, to the gentleman's question about addressing people, I attend every senior building in Ward 8. Now, when we talk about engagement, I have not been to a senior building yet where more than 20% of the seniors in that building participate in a program that's in the building. So when you say addressing people, and when I say engagement, I take all correspondence that can tell me how to engage that other 80%, but we do all we can to reach every citizen in the District of Columbia. And like I say, personally, I take it personal. I go from every building. There is not a building in this ward I haven't been into or asked to come into to talk to the seniors. I have never had more than 20%. So we have to encourage those people in those buildings to participate.
But don't forget about the people that don't live in the building.
Well, but I email you.
All right, well, we have one more.
I'm going straight to add, I mean, you know, quite honestly, even at the center, we have captive audience and everybody participates. So, you know, that's like an ongoing issue. We've always discussed that. Matter of fact, when we got the community development committee started, there was a good amount of people that started phasing off and kind of went up and down. But there's probably not even a good amount of people at the center that are still actively involved. People fall to the wayside. So you put stuff in front of people, you have to take advantage of it.
To start with this panel is almost winding up, right? Okay, because I just want to say, Teresa, I've always been an admirer of your passionate advocacy. And matter of fact, if you describe what you do is occasionally go down and raise hell, don't give the devil credit for any of the good things that you do. You like everything. You are raising heaven. Okay? All right. Thank you.
All right, well, listen, we're going to give a round of applause to the panelists. Thank you, thank you. And again, they reflect a wealth of knowledge. Clearly, there's some things we're going to have to follow up. And again, it just talks about the need for seniors to continue to organize themselves. As was mentioned, that it's power in organizing. So again, we want to continue to get engaged. As we mentioned, every senior over 55 needs to be a part of the AARP process locally and on the district level. So we're going to make some adjustments, but before I bring on the councilman, I just want to acknowledge United Care for their supporting and sponsoring the program here. So if you get a chance, go by their table to get some information. And also Attorney General's office, Ryzen, we have a table. He's been very supportive of seniors. And so before you leave, make sure you get information. Yes, so at this point I want to bring Councilman Trail White to give us some remarks. We're very happy that he's here. He's been very supportive of the senior agenda, and we want him to know that we want to support you any way we can, and that we understand your job is difficult, and that we have a lot of resources and support that we can give you. So at this point, I'd like to ask the councilman to come up and make some remarks.
Yes, it's the podium right here. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
So for me, I think contrary to popular belief that our seniors, to what I've been saying, have been very active on the council.
Yeah.
I remember the times where they took up all the seats in the council room and the overflow room. And because of that advocacy, you should give yourself a round of applause. That's real. And I always say that bad things happen when good people do nothing. And I think that we're in a place and time in Ward 8 where we have to come together to put aside, what we don't have in common, because we have a lot of stuff in common. And I think that we are, struggling to find our way where we are economically, because we do a lot of building in the city all the time. But we are trying to be more laser focused on how we build and who we building for. Because as you have seen in the last couple of years, we've laid out the red carpet for new people coming to DC. Tax incentives, breaks, all this money for people coming. We welcome new people coming to DC. But we want to make sure we're taking care of those who've been in DC for the long haul, through the bad times, the good times, and the in-between. And so my office has been laser focused on ensuring that we keep seniors as a high priority. And as a result, I don't know if you know or not, but we were in a battle with Union Square. Anybody know about the Union Square project? Yeah. Okay, for those who don't know, it was look at Niecy smile. It was a battle with Union Square because they wanted to get a $60.7 million tax incentive financing from the government to underwrite the project. And while that was all well and good, most people that were moving into that apartment were going to be new people. Based on the demographics and incomes of people living in the ward. I'm proud to say that because of your advocacy, we now replaced a hotel with a new senior living facility. Sometimes it's worth the fight, and it's worth pushing back to ensure that we give an input of what happens in our community, not people imposing what they want to see happen in our community. And so we had a series of engagement forums at Congress Heights and the Union Temple and DHCD, but it's imperative that we stay engaged in the process. One of the things we want to focus on, I know you all heard a lot of controversy around United Medical Center, right? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to touch on that a little bit, but one of the things I want to have a community meeting to follow up on, because I want to know what are some of the specialty services that you all need in the community. Because it does no good for us to put $325 million in a facility and yet it don't meet the needs of the people that's designed to serve. And that's people in Ward 7 and 8. So we are going to engage the community because we don't want, while we're happy that GW or UHS is coming to do a hospital in our ward, this is still our hospital. Yeah. And because we circumvented the certificate of need process, it doesn't leave the government to know what the need is. And so we want you to be able to get engaged and tell what the needs are. I got you. To speak to what kind of specialty services we need. And so we're going to have a whole forum about that. And one of the things you talked about today, the panel has been excellent. Touching on the topics from the comprehensive plan, because that's going to be serious in the district. And one of the things that I noticed early on when we talked about the comprehensive plan the last time was some of the language that was in the comprehensive plan that gave people the opportunity to fight against things they didn't want, or to take the government to court to say height restrictions, density, or take it out of the language, to give the developers free range to do whatever they want to do. And so I'm concerned about that, and you should be too, because we want to be stirring how we develop this framework. So there are going to be a series of new meetings in the community to give our input on what we want to see happen with that. We want to be very engaging, and I need your help to get the word out, because I don't know everybody. And because you may know the person I don't know, and vice versa. The power is in communicating with people. And so as we get the word out to you guys, we would like for you to join me and get the word out to your neighbors, because that's how we become stronger and increase the communication gap. One of the last things I wanted to say today was that we have finished the actual budget cycle, but we're fighting to change language in the Budget Support Act and how we want the money to be spent in different agencies. And sometimes we have to push our other colleagues, because while, as we heard before, I represent Ward 8 as a Ward 8 council member, we actually have 4 at-large members and a chairman that represent Ward 8. And so we have to make sure that our priorities is their priority as well, because if they don't vote the way we would like to see them vote, and we're still voting to get them in office, not saying they're not, I'm just saying that we have to get to 7. Politics is about getting to the number 7, and sometimes 11, depending on if it's emergency. And I need your help to help me to get to 7, because I'm fighting as hard as I can. You know, I use a couple of language words I want to use. I hope you forgive me for that. I know we're in the church, but we fighting as hard as we can to get what we need, but we have a long way to go. And we're running out of time. Because every day that goes past, there are, you know, decisions are being made. They have an adverse effect or a positive effect on our lives. And one thing I learned from Mr. Lockridge years ago, he said everything we do affects politics, because politics affect every aspect of your life. And so we want to be more engaged about how we make a decision that affects you, because at the end of the day, I work for you. Right? And so we have a senior committee in my office. We want to get more seniors involved. We have opened up our Ward 8 office 5 days a week. That's at 2235 Shannon Place. We need volunteers. I'm going to say it again, we need volunteers to come down. If you can volunteer, raise your hand, Ms. Wendy. Talk to Wendy Glenn. We want to get you on the schedule for those who may be retired or may have free time or may want to make some calls, because the reality is as the city grows, the people who can't afford to live anywhere else in the city are navigating east of the Anacostia River. I ain't going to say the east end. And so we're addressing a lot of the social ills that come this way. And it's a heavy burden, but it's what we signed up for. And so any help that you can give us to help navigate that, because we are dealing with a lot of crucial issues, especially with the violence in the community.
Is that coming from elsewhere?
What?
The violence.
The violence is we've had violence in the community for a long time. But the issue is that we got to address the mental health issues in our community. We have to address the lack of investment in education in our community, the substance abuse issues in our community, as you all know. And until we address that, we're going to be here over and over again. And we got to get more mentors in some of these young people's lives, because they're becoming what they see. When we don't provide something constructive for them to do, it leads to do stuff destructive. As you see in the community, which I talked about when I was on a panel up here when I ran for office, about the number of recreation centers that closed in this ward. Over 7. Yeah, we said we care about the young people and vice versa. But we've been very diligent. We opened up 3 new recs. We just added 1 more to the budget. I have to give credit to Mayor Murray Bowser, because she put the money in when we asked her for a new Douglas Recreation Center. We have the 3 new recs, a new senior wellness center, and also we added to Congress Heights Wellness Center as well. So I'm going to digress for a moment. I see a couple of hands, so I'm going to take right here, just up in the back.
Mary Buckley. My question, you mentioned about a senior center being opened up in Reunion Square. Can you elaborate on what type of senior citizen, what does it entail? Is it residential? Is it a day center? Is it for people who are very ill or for healthy people? Or what? Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
So we still in negotiations about that, but the philosophy behind it is senior housing. It's not a wellness center, it's not an activity center, it's actually a living quarters that was originally designed for a hotel. I think it's, don't quote me on this, but I think it's about 60 units. And it ranges from different AMIs. We're trying to push them down to mixed units. Or we're really trying to, because you know, a lot of seniors don't fix income. And we don't want you to decide between if you're going to pay your rent or get some food or pay for your medicine. And so we're very conscious of that. And it's been a tough road trying to push them to do what we want to see happen in the community. Because there are other residents that don't want a senior facility in our ward. They don't want to live close to any poor people. They want, you know, and they want amenities, which I want amenities as well, but it's about how we're going to create a healthy mix at one time without pushing people out.
And follow up one question, please.
Yep.
I want to elaborate because there are a lot of new buildings being built here, residential, rentals, condos, etc. And there doesn't seem to be an oversight on these buildings. The quality of these buildings is very poor. So when people move in, they said, well, they tore them up. They didn't tear them up. They weren't the quality in the first place. The toilet breaks down because they didn't have it properly installed properly in a decent toilet. So there needs to be some oversight. DCRA can't seem to do it in regards to these buildings that are being built. They fall apart in, what, 1 or 2 years, and it's just no oversight to make sure these buildings are built properly. So we need something like that for sure.
So I totally agree. I actually had to visit, I had a meeting with a resident, I'm not gonna say her address, but, and I have got at least 7 or 8 calls from the same residence facility of a brand new condo facility that's basically falling apart. From water leaking from one floor all the way down to the next floor. A lot of different issues like that, so I agree. And so I am on the housing and revitalization committee, and so we are trying to figure out different mechanisms. We're also thinking about breaking DCRA up to make it more effective in the District of Columbia, because it's just too much for that agency to bear, the number of issues, and so that's been a conversation. I think we're probably at 7 right now in votes to get that done, so you want to see a lot of conversation about that in the upcoming months as well.
Good evening, Councilperson. I'm glad that you're getting involved in this senior house, and I asked you that question almost 2 years ago, and now we're at the point, it sounds like, where they're going to be putting some affordable housing in your ward for senior citizens. I am a certified senior ambassador for the Office on Aging and Community Living, and just this week, I got a list of seniors that live in this ward that need to be referred for some appropriate housing. I didn't hear, are you talking about Maple View Flats for seniors, or is this a different location?
It's a different location. It's not being built yet. It's actually in design phase right now. We have to approve the TIF through legislation, but it's for a brand new development project.
Is it going to be
excuse me.
Chicago Street?
It's going to be on. It's going to be from Chicago Street to Martin Luther King Avenue back around. So it's going to encompass the Anacostia area by the big shed. It's going to be down in that area, but not Maple View Flats.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I'm going to get in touch with your office so I can volunteer on that.
Thank you. There's another one. There's another one.
Okay, whose hands up? Okay, we'll go ahead and go over here.
Come right here. Come right here.
Yes, I'm concerned, since you were talking about the violence here, I was concerned about, you know, maybe you can get something out. We have 3 and 4 churches on one corner, and we have all these ministers, and they never come out to say anything or say, let's have peace and stop the violence or whatever. How can you get these ministers to come out? They need to come out. I mean, they're getting these people's money, their tithes and whatever, and they go on out wherever they live and do what they want to do, but they really need to be focused on something.
I know, Far Southeast Collaborative, ACC, Phil Purnell, we have a Ward 8 faith meeting that happens once a month. And
how do you get the ministers out? You need to get, you got to go into these churches and get these ministers out. Are they afraid of that? Maybe they'll be taxed by the government or something? They're afraid of something.
Reverend Thomas is always out here.
So I just think that, you know, I think that most of the ministers that's in the community don't even live in the community, first of all. And not just talking about the churches, but we have mosques, we have masjids in the community as well. And so what we started to, did we call them this week? I know we supposed to call them, but we have resources to the block tomorrow night on Malcolm X and MLK, where we have the Department of Behavioral Health, DOES, a lot of nonprofit organizations. I think we call CC Prep. We call some of the ministers in our database to come out. And we can't control who come out. You know, some of the movements start with a little bit of people. Yeah. And when it becomes popular, everybody seems to get on board. And so, you know, there's an old Bible scripture that says the harvest is plentiful, but the labors are few. Yeah. And so we just got to keep working to turn this thing around, and whoever join on board do. But I have no mechanism in place to keep the ministers accountable or the imams accountable, but we're going to keep working. Everybody can chip in.
Any question over here?
Yeah. I have a question about concerning the national job.
Yes.
Now, I know that they only have an office at UMC on the 3rd floor, but they don't have an office at 7D. And I addressed the issue to the person at 7D. Now the UMC is going to close. What's going to happen to the office getting at the hospital.
So I think you're speaking about safe. Are you speaking about safe? Yeah. So we want to make sure they have a space. Because you just say that. I mean, the issue is that it's access. And so the reason why I was fighting the way I was fighting because I don't want to close the hospital without opening a new hospital. And another reason I was fighting is because the hospital is actually going to be in Ward 8. And as the leader of Ward 8, I'm not in the conversation of what's going to happen with the hospital in Ward 8. And so 2 Fridays ago, I met with Councilmember Gray, City Administrator Rashad Young, to try to figure out how we can create a platform for everybody to get input of what we want to see happen with this hospital, because the executive branch is negotiating a deal, and because they may not give certain intelligence about what's going on in the community that I may be able to give based on what I hear in the community, we don't want to leave any population out. And so I'll be bringing that up, including children, because you know it's a children's facility inside the United Medical Center too that a lot of people use, and so that has not been discussed. I have a list of things that we want to work on to ensure that there's inclusion in this new hospital, because right now, I'm going to be quite frank,
Nothing without
United Health Services don't want to budge on a lot of requests that we have in the community. And so we had to legislate our way into it. Well, this is our hospital. You know, we are looking for, you know, someone to run a hospital. This is our hospital, but what they're saying is that it's like a hostage situation. We're not going to do this, we want to go do this. And we're saying, we're trying to negotiate. But originally I was not at the negotiation table, so now Councilmember Gray and also Rashad Young agreed to include me and Councilman, because he wasn't allowed to discuss it either, but he's over top of the Health Council on these conversations. So we encourage you all to stay active and we keep you informed of what's happening. And also I'm trying to bring the conversation to the community. And not downtown, in the middle of the day where most people can't get down and have it, in the evening, or sometime in the daytime where residents in this ward can participate in the conversation.
Okay, one more question before we transition. Yes, okay.
Councilmember, how are you
Yes,
today?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I wanted to talk a little bit about the loitering that's happening at the Atlantic Street Shopping Center. I've been attending the meetings with the Bellevue Civic Association, and we've been engaging the police officers that do that work down there, and they're telling us that the district doesn't have a logging law, so that there's nothing that they can do to encourage these young men to stop hanging there and doing that. And so some of the ladies that live here on Martin Luther King Avenue are watching the Wall Street crew that are on Atlantic and Martin Luther King, and then they're noticing a change of who these people are, because now they're not people that are living in Ward 8 or from Ward 8, but they're people outside of our community that are coming over here and taking root here. So one of the things that I'd like to talk about, because the city doesn't have a no loitering law. The police hands are tied. But when I go to 7-Elevens west of the river, there's no loitering there. I mean, people aren't hanging out there, so I don't understand why it's being allowed here and that the one down on South Capitol Street.
So one of the tools that we are, that the MPD has been using in conjunction with store owners is a bar notice.
Right.
And so because we don't have a loitering law, the store is able to bar people from being on the property because it is private property, and that's the enforcement that the police is able to use to remove people off. The reality is that with that population, all they're going to do is navigate somewhere else. Because that 7-Eleven hasn't always been, there used to be a gas station right there, so people, and so the reality, we have to figure out a way to intervene in some of these guys' lives as predominantly African-American men. Right there, and most of them are on drugs. And they not only at the 7-Eleven, but they in front of what used to be that old laundromat right there.
Right.
They're trickling all the way down, even to the other side, another people on the AutoZone side.
Right.
And so what we've been attempting to do was engage and to figure out what we can do to help them get housing. DBH, Travis from DBH has been hitting the streets with us to provide substance abuse treatment and things like that, but it's not enough. Even Robert McKinney, some residents even got on board to do some different things to engage their population, but we haven't figured it out.
Well,
because we haven't figured it out, the store owners have been enforcing the law through stay away orders, through barring notices.
I want to volunteer my husband, Pastor Eugene Shepherd,
Yes.
and Pastor Cliff Beckford to work with your office so that we can cause some change going down there, because one of the things that they had us to do was to hire an off-duty police officer to come in and serve those bar notices, but they're sitting out on city property, underneath that mulberry bush that's there.
Okay. So one of the things that the guys did from Wall Street was they started mentoring the younger guys. I don't know if you know about that. But they also started a feeding program every 23rd of the month at 6 o'clock. They're right here on South Capitol feeding. They got the tables out there because I know Stan Jackson has a son who's a part of this group. His name is Stan Jackson also, and his other son. So it is a group that's a part of the Wall Street group that we've been talking to for the last 2 years. And they have formed a mentoring organization for younger guys, and they also been feeding the community. So we can try to use some of that energy to help the other guys transition and be a part of that group.
So how can we get plugged into that? Because we will be at the Peace Walk tomorrow night.
Okay, if you can text me your number, we can let you have it.
I will do that. Thank you.
All right, we want to thank, one more.
I'm Mary James. Where is Union Square located?
Well, Union Square is located between, it's almost like a half of a square. It's located between W Street, Shannon Place, Chicago Street, all in that area, right up.
By the lottery board?
Yeah, right. So right in front of the lottery board, right?
Then another important question is,
parking lot is a part of the
since you
Union
said
Square.
you were on the Housing and Revaluation Committee.
That's all right.
Well, anyway. Are you aware that CPDC purchased Randall Hills? It was effective, I think, about 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. They're now seeking a tax incentive. It's 196 apartments. We're over here on 3300 6th Street Southeast.
Yes, ma'am. I'm aware.
We are having a lot of problems. I personally have called your number. You have not responded to my call.
From my personal
I've
cell?
called Anita Bond's office. They aren't aware of anything.
So yes, I am aware of that particular project. They are looking for money from what I know from the Housing Production Trust Fund, and that goes through DHCD. That's an executive function of on the mayor's side. So it's really nothing we can do but push them. And they only give out a certain amount of awards a year. It's awarded. They awarded a few development projects last month. I think Park Southern was one of them. There was another one awarded, but they don't. It's a lot of requests without enough money to award all the ones. We met with DHCD in my office with some of the development projects. So I don't know where this particular one is. It's on in Randall Hill, where in the pipeline, but I am aware of it. But we don't control that.
We have a lot of problems with the students from Ballou coming over into our laundry room, hanging out all hours of the day, before school, after school, even on Friday evenings around 8 and 9 o'clock. And we call the police. The police now will not come anymore.
So
they say it's a management problem because the front doors to those apartment buildings are not locked. I and other people have been complaining constantly. They're not doing a thing about it. I complained to housing. Housing said it's management's problem.
So it is a management problem, but one of the things we've been doing is visiting properties with DCRA and the Office of the Attorney General. I'm not sure if you've seen the videos.
Yes, I spoke with John Green constantly. We keep in touch.
So we can do a visit there. Wendy, raise your hand, Wendy. You should get Wendy that information if you can't reach me directly, and we can come over there to figure out what we can do to address the issue. And I'm just telling you, a lot of things don't happen overnight.
This has been going on for years.
So I'm not aware of all the issues happening to that property, but I know when we do get notice of it, we come visit the property and do an assessment and start working from there. And we probably visited about 7 properties to date, but we can do more.
All right, well, we're going to make the transition to the next panel. So we'd like to give the councilman. And continue. We're going to continue to extend ourselves as seniors to support him in any way we can. So I'm going to ask the next panelist to come up front to finish up our discussion. And as they come up, I just want to acknowledge who they are. So we have Dr. Sean Jiggany from DC Senior Advisory Coalition, replacing Between the Pope is Ms. Slayton, yes, and she's representing the dynamic solution of the aging. We have Mr. William Ritchie from Congress Heights Senior Wellness Center, and Anthony's Ruffin, Developing Economic Opportunities. If you can see the transition we made, the first panelists were some of, I would call, our seniors, our more seasoned seniors. We have the second panelist, our pre-seniors.
That was supposed to be
Well, we have somewhat of an age distinction here, and as I think it's important that we have this recognition because we need to do more from an intergenerational perspective. And I think we are much richer a community when we have different ages blending and coming up with common agendas, and we need to do more of that. So I will, since you're at the far right, Mr. Richard, can you start? I'm asking you to take 5 minutes to talk about your sense of where seniors and what age they're at, and any other things you want to add.
Well, I'm going to say this panel after all the discussion on other things. I feel like, wow, I'm just going to talk about health, but health is very important, of course. You know, there's so many different dynamics to health. And for those, and I'm going to start with mentioning about Congress Heights, because a lot of times take for granted people just know about what's out in the community and what's being offered. And we have people still coming into the center that had no idea that that center's been sitting there all these years, and didn't know what that little one-level building is, you know, it's been all this time. So Congress Heights Senior Wellness Center is one of the 6 centers that are funded by the DC Office on Aging. We're actually managed by the Far Southeast Family Strength and Collaborative in partnership with East River Family Strength and Collaborative. So that's the dynamics of that. And of course, we mentioned about the different age groups, but we are 60 and over DC residents. Our whole goal is to really promote optimum state of health and well-being for residents, for our members, and we do that through disease prevention and health promotion. So we offer tons of different programs, you know, nutrition, fitness, socialization programs, which are very important because we know a lot of DC seniors live in isolation, so we try to help promote that, and of course a lot of health education. So, you know, our goal is to support the mission of all the organizations we're under in terms of the well-being of seniors in DC. I did want to mention, so as Mr. Mustafa mentioned, we actually were part of starting the committee a couple years back, and that really came from me just kind of coming there, and I've always been like a very vocal person in things, and I believe in advocating for things, and I just felt like, you know, I agree with him that the seniors are such a strong base in any community, especially the homeowners, that they always need to leverage their voice, and I just felt like, you know, it's not the first time I've seen gentrification happen. I'm from New York. I mean, you just watching things happen, I'm just sitting there thinking, like, I think Ms. Allen mentioned about being reactive. You know, we have to stop being on the reactive side of things. We have to be proactive. So my goal with Mr. Mustafa is, you know, let's get people moving here. We all know these things start decades before they actually happen, but at least you get moving at some point so that you can leverage something out of those deals. So, you know, that's why, you know, I pretty much support everything he did. We got to the point where we had to get the committee, the development committee out of the center because it was starting to get a little too political, and, you know, I had to stay in my lane, but I'm glad it's evolved to where it's at, and it's continuing to do what he's doing. So, you know, for me, we're just trying to do our best to penetrate the seniors in Ward 8 in terms of reaching them. Right now, you know, depending on what census information you look at, what years, we're probably anywhere from close to 11 to up to 13% penetration of the seniors in Ward 8, senior population in Ward 8 in terms of who we've reached and who've become members and take advantage of our services. But there's still a lot more work to go. And I know as we move into our next fiscal year, one of my goals is actually to even change our objective to not increasing membership from the previous year, but actually a stronger penetration percentage. So, you know, we just know there's a lot of seniors out there that need to be engaged and focused on. That's my little spiel. Right now, I did want to mention we have 897 members that we started our fiscal year off with in October, but we're probably a little over 1,000. And, you know, I think we talked about the men. Mr. Pennell mentioned the men, the male population. And unfortunately, we see the same thing. Like, our male population is like maybe less than 25% of the overall population of membership, which is ridiculous. And even trying to engage, you know, we talk about engaging seniors and providing resources and things like that. Again, you can lead the horse to the water. Right? Right. So, you know, we're still struggling, even within the center, to engage people more and to have them do more than just, you know, 1 or 2 activities, or, you know, really take advantage of all these different things and the resources. And I did neglect to mention that the lead agency is through East River, so we partner with them in terms of trying to provide access to resources and services that the district has to offer, and of course we have the lunch program. So.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here representing the DC Senior Advisory Coalition. And so for those who haven't heard of us, sometimes people will call us SAC, but the coalition is basically a group of about 30 different service providers as well as individual seniors who advocate around the issues that affect the quality of life of seniors within the district. So given that, I want to talk about, in terms of the state of seniors in Ward 8, I want to focus a little bit on advocacy, because that's what we do as a coalition. And I have to agree with the councilman about Ward 8. It was interesting to hear so many people within Ward 8 say that the level of advocacy is not where you want it to be for Ward 8, because the Senior Advisory Coalition is citywide, and I have to say one of the strongest groups of advocates is Ward 8. Which I know this is being streamed, so I want to say that. So I'm like, okay, we need to step it up a little bit. But there's a couple of things I want to say. One is be encouraged. You know, you have pillars in the community, like Miss Sandy, you know, like Mr. Ritchie, like Mr. Purnell, all of these people, and I've lived in multiple states as well. I've been doing this organizing and community work for a long time. And so I see the patterns, I know the difference, and I know when there's a foundation, even though things don't look the way that you want them to look, I know when the foundational pieces that you need are there, and you have it in Ward 8. And so just be encouraged. One thing I do want to share is we've been having meetings as the coalition is coming up on our 10th year. We've been talking about how are we doing as an advocacy group. And as a result of that, I've been having conversations in the community with seniors and with different organizations, and just looking at what does it mean to even advocate? What does advocacy look like? And a couple of things I want to highlight. First is it's a different era. We are moving beyond that place, and I think this is particularly important in Ward 8, where we have people speaking for seniors. We don't, you know, people don't want that. Seniors want to be, to speak for themselves. They don't want to be looked at as a helpless population. And this is the feedback that I'm hearing, that I'm sharing back. And so advocacy needs to look different. For those of us that are advocating in the community, we are looking at how do we get at a place where we recognize the strength and the activity that's already present in our communities and in our wards. And instead of us advocating on behalf of them, how do we help build the capacity and the visibility for them so that they can advocate for themselves? And so I think Ward 8 is in a position to be able to be a model for that, because you have people like Ms. Yvonne. She's like, I get so excited because I'm always on Facebook posting on the SAC page, and she consistently responds, and I'm like, yes, someone is listening. But so I think that's the first thing that's key, is as you're building this economic plan, is helping people understand that we're not looking for handouts. We are not just people who receive services, but we're also in a position to offer services and to offer value. And that the seniors in Ward 8 are not looking to be spoken for, but are looking to partner with people who to be able to participate in advocacy. And so that's why I'm excited about the Senior Advisory Coalition, because within our mission, it's to advocate with and for seniors. So if we're not with seniors, if seniors are not at the table, then we're not doing it right. The other thing that I want to say is I had this conversation with, you know, I have to be careful. Okay, so but the idea was to talk about advocacy needs to look different. Sometimes advocacy is just being adversarial. It just means like, you said something, I disagree, and now I'm going to convince you that what I said is true. And in DC, sometimes, and especially, and I live in Ward 7, so I can say this, sometimes in Ward 7 and Ward 8, we wait for someone to establish something, and then we believe that advocacy looks like us responding about what you've established. And we feel like we've done a good job if we get you to move in one way or another. I want to put forth that advocacy is not just about that. It's not you establishing something and me responding, but advocacy means that we have collectively come to a table and we have collectively identified what the needs are and collectively created what the responses would be. And that's me advocating. So it's not, and so, you know, you said it earlier, it moves from a place of reaction to a place of creativity. And so that's what I love when I come to the AARP meeting here. You know, it's people, and unfortunately we've been put in this situation, right? Because we're not given much, we have to figure out how to do much with little. And so we're very good at that as a community. And so I would just say that as you go forward and look across the ward, is to continue that creativity. You know, if someone gives you a whole lot more money, don't just take that money and say, okay, do more of what you've already been doing with that money. Because maybe what they were doing wasn't good in the first place. But instead say, okay, this is what we need, this is how we think you should do it, and this is how much it's going to cost. And so I'm excited about being able to be in the community in Ward 8 because quite honestly, I brought energy from the community in Ward 8 and that commitment to moving forward even when you're not being immediately responded to, and take that across the city. So.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sharita Slayton, and I'm representing Dynamic Solutions. Katrina Pope, and you work often with her, Councilmember Trayon White. She's unable to be here today, but I partnered with her in several arenas with her passion of addressing seniors. And I see several of those who we have the pleasure of working with often. And so as I sit here today, sometimes you have things that you want to say, but you have to get to the heart of what's really going on, right? And so as I sit here and we hear the various organizations and the opportunities that are available here in DC, they've always been available. That is not the problem about availability and the great programs, it's access and knowing about them. And that is the challenge that we have here in DC. It's the disconnect. We have so many organizations that work in silos because originally how funding was given was based on you showing the best thing you can do and you get your funding. It is not the mindset of us all working together. And until we get to that mindset that it's all of us involved and how can we play our piece in that pie, and so advocating and coming to the wellness centers and knowing it, and so who is not present here when we're talking about the extinction of our black males and our black fathers? MPD is not here, right? And so we don't talk about our youth being here as well because sometimes they are the caretakers of our seniors. So Dynamic Solutions realized all of that, and it was about 8 years ago that Katrina Pope actually came over to the Overlook after someone had passed. And she realized that the seniors were kind of like, didn't know what to do because this one person, as you're talking about somebody else doing something for them, was taking care of programming and having programs for them. And she stated at that time, this will never happen again. You all going to have to learn how to advocate and lead for yourselves. And so that is, out of that, we now have what is called the Village, the Legacy Collaborative Senior Village. And we were at a meeting, 2 weeks ago about the villages. So I'm a native Washingtonian. And I live in Ward 7 as well, but have often worked in Ward 8. And I understand and have seen the changes in the city. And if you look at anywhere where funding goes, they provide a lot of programs, but they do not provide outreach. So they're not trying to reach the people. That is what is lacking with a lot of the services that the city provides. So is it that whether you're not technology inclined or whether you're not getting the flyer, what efforts are going forth for you to reach the masses of the people that you want to reach? So what we started doing was busing different people in to the various programs that the city was already having, because they were having great programs, but the seats were empty. So you're building the program, we have the people. So can you provide us with transportation? So at one point we partnered with the Department of Recreation to bring the seniors from Ward 8 and also from Ward 7 to the various programs that they were having. So at that time, Department of Aging, they're planning a lot of programs, but when do you all find out about things? The day before, the hour before? And so we realized that that was a big void. So we realized that communication, outreach, and also the opportunity to collaborate and to bring information together. And also the data of what we're doing is very important, because it is that data that then gets us funding. And we're not necessarily doing that and creating that. So it looks splintered. It looks very splintered, and it looks like our numbers are very low of what we're doing because we do not focus on the data and the collection of data.
All right, thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Anthony Ruffin, and I am the president of Development Economic Opportunities. I heard a lot today, and I want to say a lot, but I know that I want to respect everybody's time. But essentially, DEO works to ensure that the residents and the businesses of Ward 8 are prepared for and included in the economic growth that's happening in the community. We actually work right alongside Councilmember White to support his vision of economic equity in the ward. And we're going to pass out, Edward, one of my colleagues over there, is going to pass out some information as well as a survey. I want to talk about one of the things that we're tasked with. We're we're actually in the planning phases of data collection of a community economic development planning process. Sitting here hearing the panelists talk and the audience asking questions and giving their input really speaks to the need of the community economic development plan that we need. We want to create an entry point and a process for all economic development activities within the ward. And we want to focus on, we're looking at the council member's 6 focus areas, and one of his top priorities is seniors. So we want to be inclusive of everybody, specifically the seniors, because we know we value what you want, we value your knowledge, and again, we want you to be a part of this planning process because we want to ensure that you are able to benefit from the economic growth as well. So again, I want to, Edward, if you could pass out the information just so that I can go over it. So this is just a one-page giving an overview, a deeper overview of what DEO is and what we do, as well as the economic development planning process. And this right here is a survey that we'd like for you to fill out. It just has your name, phone number, and information. We want to keep you updated and get input. If you're affiliated with any entities, or if you have a specific interest, we want to know what that is so that we can include you. And if you have any questions on it, I'll be, around to answer any questions. But in addition to that, as I explained earlier, we work with the residents, and in Ward 8 we work with a fragile population, and we all know that there is about $10 billion in development that's going on that's happening in our ward over the next 5 years. So we want to use all of our assets, including the development, to ensure that our needs are met. We're not allowing anybody to come in our community anymore, just do whatever they want to do. They have to support the community needs to ensure that we are economically thriving. So part of what we do is, with construction comes jobs, not just temporary construction jobs, but we're talking about long-term, having long-term business owners that can take advantage of the long-term management contracts, and just training to prepare people to become entrepreneurs and to self-sustain. So we do assessment. My office is on Willow Road at 4135 Willow Road Southeast, And what we do is we look at the qualifications that people have. We don't throw anybody away. We want to meet people where they are, because we know that everybody that comes to us isn't going to be ready to take advantage of the opportunity. And it's okay. What we do is look at where you are, your credentials, your resume, your potential barriers, you know, which we know there could potentially be many. And we connect with a lot of CBOs. We partner with a lot of CBOs to ensure that the needs of the residents are met, so that we can get people prepared. If you're not prepared tomorrow or next year, maybe in 3 years, because this development is going to be happening over the next at least 10 years. So we want to make sure, again, that people are prepared. So we're also passing this out. So if you know anybody that's interested in construction training or jobs, we do work with the developers and GCs and Councilmember White to ensure that the residents of Ward 8 can participate. Did you pass out the? Okay, he's passing. I'm sorry, he's passing them out now.
Can we give you some feedback?
Absolutely.
And I don't want to be home all the time, but I moved from Ward 6 to Ward 8. And one thing, it's all the candidates we have this problem, communication. If I wasn't on Facebook or got the Washington Post, I wouldn't know nothing about a meeting or whatever else. If it wasn't for Facebook and the Washington Post. Now they used to have, when I used to live in Ward 6, we had an East River newspaper, we had city paper was everywhere. I know that, and which other little paper that they have, the Washington Post does, the Express, but you gotta get them before anybody else gets them?
Yes.
I know the city puts ads in those papers and whatever else, but they don't have a community calendar. I wish that all these organizations that have this and the city council office, because I don't get no phone calls from nobody telling me where it wasn't on Facebook or the Washington Post, and I understand some people don't use either one of them. So if people could get together and do some kind of joint newsletter or something bi-monthly or whatever to let people know, or even to have something to come out, because we have a literacy issue in this area. And what happens, a lot of people will not tell you, they will just say that they don't do the Washington Post or whatever. They can't do anything beyond 128 characters. So if we don't know about it, they don't know about it, and I just wish that you would, and when they do grants and stuff, and I'm talking to Trey on there, when you have inputs, they should say about collaboration, because you have a lot of times, you have a big group come in, they fly into the community, they write a fancy proposal, they win, they get the money, then they can't do the job, so they want to give funds to the other little people to do it. So there should be something written in there about how you collaborate with the local organizations that's going to be there once your grant money is dried up and gone home.
For clarity, I just want to say for clarity, council members don't write grants or give out money.
I know that, but you oversight, in oversight, you can ask those questions about, I know you don't, but in oversight, you can ask the question, are you working with? And I've heard some council people asking, what community organizations are you working with? Especially when you got a group flying in from Missouri or somewhere else. Yep. Now, why do you need to award it to them? Maybe they didn't have the infrastructure, but you can have them. I mean, it's the same thing happened with Howard and GW. But I'm just saying, people have to start from somewhere. You just don't fly in, get the goodie, you leave, and then you say, I'm sorry, we couldn't service you, and you still got to service the people. So that's just input you talk among yourself.
I just want to make a quick comment. So we don't have time to go into all the different things that go on, I guess, in different organizations, but Smith, you know, like the common sites for work, we stay partnered with everybody. We partner with every government agency, community groups, and we put the information out there. And I still have to say, I mean, we have to be accountable for our own actions, because I think that some of the stuff that's going on really is people get to a certain stage in life and they don't want to do anything else. I mean, it's deserved. I mean, you know, people are tired, and you know they've been working hard. And again, you can't have the same people doing the work for everybody all the time, and that's with anything. But we give access to plenty of information. People don't take advantage. I'm just, but I want to clarify because you talk about partnerships. And I'm just saying we just don't have time to go on with different partnerships. But there's been times, you know, you're at the center, you have to be there to know certain things. You might miss something, you know. And we use all forms: technology, paper, everything.
So I just want to quickly say, I understand everything that you said, and there are a couple different issues in your comment, but I'm going to quickly address it. I consider myself, well, I was born and raised in two sisters that are ANC, mother former ANC. Actually, my sister is the chief over at AP. And I'm from the community. I'm not going into it. I'm not a nonprofit, so I'm not here collecting names, numbers, and getting grant money and gone. Again, I'm doing this work because I was chosen to do it. I didn't wake up and say I want to give my life to the residents of Ward 8. I'm giving people that hope back that somebody gave me because I was one decision away from getting. You know, and I'm not saying that for brownie points. I'm just, just giving you. I just want you to know who I am. My address is on that paper. You're welcome to come to my office anytime and see what we're doing. Just FYI, I want you to know
what I'm
that.
saying is that all these different groups that we have.
No,
I'm not saying you personally.
No, I agree, and I'm not taking them personally.
Collaborate together.
So there has been collaboration. There has been meetings. I mean, as a matter of fact, Mustafa has hosted several meetings. The council has hosted, several meetings in collaboration. And I consider myself a community engagement expert, essentially, in disseminating information. So for me, like, I'm grassroots. So that's why I'm here today. I want to make sure that the audience is receiving the information. I know everybody doesn't use Facebook. I know that we have a literacy problem. The council member knows we have a literacy problem. That's why education is one of his, top priorities. So we're working diligently to ensure that everybody is included and receives the information.
Okay, so we're going to wrap it up. We got a couple more questions.
Okay. I have lived in Ward 8 for 70 years. I went to my good government job for 30 years. I came home. I went to private industry for another 10 years. I happened to be riding up and down Martin Luther King Avenue, saw that turned around sign and wondered what that building was. That's how I got into the senior center. But your organizations, I don't live in a village. I live in a single family home. I've never heard of any of this, none. I get the Washington Post. Now, I look at Facebook to look at people like Yvonne, but I don't look at the different organizations, so maybe this is where I'm missing it. But somewhere, your information is not getting out to somebody like me. And I don't know where your information is. Florentine tells me about the village, because I don't know anything about it.
So I want to say I hear you and I received that feedback. And one of the things that we said, like when I came on board with SAC, which was just last fall, we said we're not connecting with the seniors. And so we said, instead of just waiting for people to come to the monthly meeting for us, we're going to get out. And so I get out to the mini commission meetings, to the wellness centers, as much as possible, but we can do more. So please keep sharing the feedback about the best way. When I send out my announcements, a weekly email to about 365 people each week now. The seniors throughout the city, organizations throughout the city, every week. And I've said to people, if you have things that are happening in the community, send it to me and I'll include it. But we can do a better job. So, and before we wrap up, I just want to make an announcement of a great resource that's coming to Ward 8 as well.
Okay, a couple more questions. If you haven't asked a question yet, why don't we give them people who haven't? So I know you haven't yet.
Okay. I'm looking at this flyer. And you all want people to make contact with you all by way of email, I guess. I think everybody's emails, and our phone numbers should be on this flyer. I mean, that's a good way to communicate with community. I mean, I know you all were here, I know your name, but I have no way to contact you unless I Google you, Google your organization.
That was my
intake packages, by the way.
And that was my responsibility. And your point well taken, so in the future we will do that. HCC does that in their meetings, and I think it's very effective.
Okay, and again, I don't know if you all come to, I don't get to them often, but Bellevue has a meeting, a civic association meeting on Saturday at 11 o'clock at Community of Hope. Good, Community of Hope.
Okay, you had a question?
No, I don't have a question. I just want to make a statement. And I've lived in Ward 8 for maybe since 1976. And I've seen it grow a lot, and I've seen it grow for the better. So I myself volunteer a lot, not as much as I used to because of health issues and age, but I am positive and I am hopeful, and I look forward to you all doing an excellent job, but I look forward to watching you all and following you all and helping you all to do an even better job.
All right, that's a good comment. Wendy?
Yeah, I wanted to just bring a point about communication. I know oftentimes, you know, our seniors are not on social media. I am an avid social media person, but I know our seniors are not. So we have a newsletter that comes out weekly done by this beautiful lady right here. And the newsletter has been out for 3 years now. So it comes out weekly, and you can sign up for it. And if you go to Trayon White #8, that's his page, and then you just click on sign me up for the newsletter. And you can sign up for the newsletter, and you can get the newsletter every week. It tells you about every single solitary thing that is coming out in Ward 8 that the council member knows about, that we can know about. If you want to send information to me, you can call me. My number is answered all the time. I don't even go to bed till like 1 o'clock in the morning. Okay. And I am at 202-567-9709. If you're on Facebook, we have a constituent services page. Ward 8 Constituent Services. It's right there. It has a little heart there too. It looks really nice. But you can also hit my Facebook page, and I'm Wendy Glenn. Just my name. With 2 N's, and that's it. And you'll see a lot of information on there. And I communicate a lot. I try to find every single solitary way to communicate. We do flyer drops. If you need a flyer dropped off, if we're having a meeting and you know that your community is not receiving a lot of information, we will come out and door knock. We will come out and flyer drop. We go to buildings. We go to communities. Call my number and say we need this type of information disseminated. This is exactly what we do. 202-567-9709. And I answer my phone up until about 1:30 in the morning.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And as a backup, my office is on Willow Road. If you need any assistance, I'm going to give you my cell phone number. It's 202-486-3861. My office number is on it. If you can't go to the website and sign up to the newsletter, I'll help you with that.
Okay, you had a response?
And I'd also like to say, my name is Louise Thorne, and I work in constituent services for the council member. And you guys can definitely have my phone number, particularly if you have housing issues and you're dealing with education or utilities. You can contact me at any time at 202-957-5637, and I'll be more than happy to get you guys.
Repeat that again.
202-957-5637.
Okay, we're going to just take a couple more questions before we close it out because we're past our time. You'll be next one? Okay.
I just want to say, I just thank all of you all, because we've been doing pretty good on here. We need more help, but it's not you all, it's the seniors themselves. We have a caliber of seniors out here. They're not seasoned seniors all the way. And then in some places, these seniors are getting a lot of stuff. And everything, and whatever they get free, they're going to take it, and that's it. They're not going to give back anything, and that's just a few. It's not, but it's more than, you know.
That's throughout every generation.
But they're so complacent, and they think, oh, they're getting everything, but they're not going to do anything. And that's the reason why. But we got some wires and very good food out here. They don't care. And it's different.
Because of what this forum is supposed to be focused on, this is what I'm saying, like getting to the key of the state of seniors, like what's going on and how we're going to make that work. And you know, again, I just keep coming back to what we've been discussing the last couple of years. And you know, I come in supporting principle 1 and 8 primarily, but supporting the whole set of principles. But again, how do you get the seniors moving to make things happen, because otherwise we're just talking about what we do. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I kind of have to say that, because that was the point of this.
It's going to be an ongoing struggle. Well, this is why we have to have these forums, to have this conversation. So I want to wrap it up because I know it's late, and I want to thank the parents. Because can we give them a round of applause? Thank you for your. I want to thank everybody that attended and stayed. Do we have any announcements of anybody? Yes. Really quickly? Okay. First announcement: if everybody to fill out this form, if you can make sure that you return it when you leave, that'll be helpful. And another announcement?
Very quickly, my name is Johnson. My name is Winnie Houston. My colleague Kate Lee back here, we're with DC Greens. There is a pilot project with Lyft for discounted rides to the 4 grocery outlets in 7 and 8. We got word just now that it's been extended through the end of the year. Ms. Yvonne, Ms. Jones are already members. And we can also increase our numbers. Please, grab one of these. Contact information is on there. We will contact us. We will come to you.
Okay, another announcement.
So we want to invite everybody. As you may know, Iona Senior Services is opened up an Adult Day Health Center here in Ward 8. It's going to be at the Shops at Park Village. It's servicing participants diagnosed with Alzheimer's and dementias, and care and support for their families. The ceremonial groundbreaking is going to be on June 10th at 1 o'clock. So we invite everyone, come over to the Shops at Park Village on June 10th at 1 o'clock.
One more quick thing. For anybody here who's 60 and over, who's a DC resident, who's not a member of a wellness center, Homicide City Wellness is right down the block. And I mention that because we don't just do fun and games. We have an outreach group. We have Homicide's outreach group that serves meals to the people and to the men over at the shelter. We have the advisory board is very active. Stay active, advocating, and doing outreach. So come to the center where you're doing more than just working out.
All right. Let's give everybody a hand of applause. Good meeting. Glad you were here. And we'll be in touch with everybody. Thank you. Can you turn your sheets in? If you fill out your seats. Yeah. I'm out. Well, I need you guys to do it.